I don't run my companies by a spreadsheet. I mean, it's important, but to me, it's like an outcome. I have always been, just give it away. Whatever you got, give it to somebody else. This is like my own personal experience. The more that I give, I get back tenfold. I think that's a universal law that just works if somebody does it in the appropriate way. So when somebody calls you and says, I don't know if we'll be able to pay you, we're struggling, and you've been working with them for 2 years and you know them personally, you have to help them, especially if you have the resource of time and expertise.
That was the voice of Andy Bailey, a serial entrepreneur, coach, and founder of several businesses, including Petra Coach, and most recently, Boundless.me, where he's helping others understand what it means to lead a life well lived. In this episode, Andy shares his story from rejection to reinvention, from flunking out of college to building and selling multiple successful companies. His story is defined by resilience and a deep desire to live with purpose, and he'll explain why he's now focused on helping others design lives that matter. Through candid stories and hard-won insight, Andy reminds us that success isn't the summit, it's the climb. My name is Buddy Teaster, President and CEO of Souls for Souls, and you're listening to the Repurpose Podcast, featuring candid conversations with business leaders who share the ups and downs, the wins and challenges they face along the way, and how they learn to overcome them. These are the real stories of going from tailspin to tailwind. So, Andy, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here on the Repurpose Podcast. Thanks for making time today.
You're more than welcome. So being able to buzz back over here to Nashville, do a little class this morning, and then come in here with you is amazing. It's always good to see you.
Perfect. Look, you have a super interesting story that covers a lot of pieces, but let's just jump into it and maybe kind of give the arc of your professional life over the last few years.
How far back do you want to go?
We can maybe start after high school. We don't have to go back that far.
I graduated high school when I was 16 years old. I lived in California for a little while as a middle schooler, and they test you and they move you around. So I tested at a higher level. They moved me up a grade. And so I was like always the youngest, littlest kid, which is not a good thing. And so when I graduated, I was really, really young.
Yeah.
And I turned 17 that summer. So I went to my first year as a college as a 17-year-old. Now, that should never happen.
No.
And I didn't do so well. I had a .67 GPA. And they did not.
That's low, Andy.
It's very low. It may be a record low. And they did not invite me back. So I left college. I moved back into my father's house. The story goes way, way back. But I moved to my father's house for about 2 weeks. It didn't fit in there either. So I went and found myself a little house trailer and stayed in that for about two and a half years and became a day laborer as a construction worker. So
this is news to me, so
yeah,
this is way more layers.
Yeah, so my professional career, outside of just part-time stuff, was when I was slinging shingles and carrying block and, doing plumbing when I shouldn't have been doing plumbing and all those kinds of things on homes. And it was really hard work. It was in Tennessee, and it was dirty work. There was only 6 people on this crew, and they didn't sub anything out. It was just 6 people that did the home, from the dirt to the shingles to the cabinetry, everything. So I learned a lot about that. But I would go home at night, home to my little crappy trailer, and crawl into the living room floor and fall asleep, filthy, dirty, and smelly, and get up the next day at 5 a.m. and go do it again. And that was kind of my, existence for a while. I just kind of decided I didn't want to do that anymore. Met a girl one summer. The girl went back to college, and I thought, well, I'll just go back to college. So I followed her back to college. She didn't stay with me, but she got me back into school. I was in school for a while. I never did very well in school. I like to learn what I like to learn. I don't like to learn what somebody tells me to learn. And I started a company selling pagers, beepers, when I was a junior in college. So I was a little older because I had this kind of construction life for a while. So I was a little older when I was in school the second time. But as a junior, that paging business began to grow and grow and grow and grow. And we had about 300 or so distribution points from Paducah, Kentucky down to the Gulf Coast. So it got, it was a real business. And as a senior, when I turned a senior, I decided that the business life for me was the business life for me. And I chased that, and I never did finish my collegiate career. Never did graduate.
So, look, I know you from Petra, and we'll get to that. But I think from the sort of lore, you experienced a lot of ups and downs in the pager business that taught you a lot. So when you decided to move to Petra, you had some real life experience under your belt about good decisions and bad decisions and plans and that sort of stuff. So can you talk about, look, when you're a senior and about to graduate from college and you've got a business with 300 distribution points, that's a big deal. So what did you learn over that next few years of running that business?
That I had no idea what I was doing. Back then, that business was so simple. It was recurring revenue. So you had this arbitrage between what you paid for services and what you sold it for. So all you had to do was multiply the damn number, and it just got bigger and bigger and more profitable. So it was like such a simple business, which ruined me in the beginning because nothing was difficult. And distribution points were super easy because you couldn't get a pager in Manchester, Tennessee. You could only get a pager in Nashville, Tennessee. It would work in Manchester with a Manchester phone number, but you had to go to Nashville to get it. So all we did was bring it to the people. It was very, very easy and very, very simple. So the business model was, for me, like, oh, that's a no-brainer. We went and did it. The challenge with that particular industry, telecom in general, is it changes about every 18 to 24 months. So the rocket ship that goes up, the rocket ship comes back down, right? And then you have to do whatever the next thing is. We went from pagers to two-way radios to two-way pagers to, if you remember BlackBerry back in the day, and you remember Nextel. And so you were always, always, always building something next because the thing that you just built is no longer in vogue, or it doesn't work like it used to, or technology changed, and it's just going to go away. But I didn't learn that fast enough with pagers. There was a group that was going around and buying pager companies.
Oh, kind of rolling them up?
Yep. They had a letter of intent from, I think, Florida Power to actually buy it. Once they hit a certain EBITDA, they were going to buy it at this number. And he came to me, he saw me in my office, said, this is your base and this and that, and we'll offer you, I think it was $2 million at the time or something. And I thought, well, that's awesome. And then I called my accountant actually. And she said, it's got to be worth more than that. Look how much revenue. It's got to be worth more than that. So I told the guy, no. Hindsight, 18 months later, that business was half of what it was. Probably should have taken that deal. But I was also very young, very dumb, very naive. And if somebody handed me $2 million at that time, I probably would not have handled that very well as an individual. So I thank God that I didn't do it, but it did teach me some lessons through that. Like, pay attention to the market. Like, things are going to shift and they are going to change. If you feel it in your gut, make the decision. So those are, you learn from failure. And I've had a lot of them. And that was just one single one when it talked about that industry.
So how did that end? Like, because that's not what you're doing now. So what was the exit?
Like, that whole run was 18 years. So a lot of
that's
things.
A long time.
93 to 2011.
Okay.
And so I saw, think about telecom in 93 and think about telecom in 2011. We did about everything there was to do in that business over that time period. From software development to bill auditing to GPS services for white box trucks to manufacturing harnesses for GPS and black boxes overseas and import, like all kinds of stuff that we did because we had to keep doing stuff. But I sold that business in 99 the first time. And I took it back in 2000.
That wasn't long.
Wasn't long at all. The funding for that business, so we had an LOI, everything was in place. We knew exactly what they were going to pay for it. And then they wanted to roll up these other paging companies. And we were going to be the platform that they followed for distribution because they just had like single store distribution of these paging companies. So they went over here and they bought this one company in Kentucky at the time. And then they went to get the second company. And do you remember 99 and what was going on in 99?
It's the end of the world's coming, man.
End of the world, yeah. So you had all this kind of tech bubble. So money became very, very tight. So we had LOIs, we had processes, we were already in the middle of all this stuff. And by the time they got to my closing, there was no more money and there was no way to get money. I actually went on the road show to help them raise money to buy my own company.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. And I did sell it. I sold it on a note. They owed me the money on a note, 100% on the note, no cash up front. And it quickly became very apparent that this was not going to work out. It took about 4 months for them to mess with payroll, remove files, take me off stuff, move things around. and they never paid the first payment. Yeah, so here I've got this asset that I had that was my life. I've been building it, and I basically just gave it away for nothing. So I had to figure out how to get that back. And I called some friends of mine in town, let them know I was in trouble. They gave me some good lawyer advice and helped me out with a lot of different things. And I went and literally met with the guy that put the whole thing together. I met with him at Cracker Barrel in Jackson, Tennessee. You can't make this shit up.
You really can't. Cracker Barrel in Jackson.
I met him at Cracker Barrel in Jackson. He was from Milan. And over dinner, I talked him into giving me my company back if I would assume the debt that the company had incurred since the purchase. And I remember it was about $1.5 million of the debt.
So I just want to say this
Yeah,
back.
clear it up.
You got nothing. You gave it away, and you had to buy it back for $1.5 million in debt.
You got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Brilliant, right?
This is not the playbook.
At the time, in my mind, the unknown was worse than the known, right? Mm-hmm. I knew how to do that business. I knew how to make it profitable. I knew that market. That's what I'd always done. So in my mind, the known was better than the unknown. Mm-hmm. So I took that particular risk. And I took it back, and I had the debt. And it took me about 2.5 years to get that monkey off my back. Mm-hmm. It was a really, really tough 2.5 years to get that done. We went into special assets at the bank. You know, they were coming to the office constantly. There's a local bank here who pulled me out of that through a relationship and helped me out a ton. I'm very loyal to them today. My bank will never go anywhere. So I got lots of stories about what not to do.
Yeah.
But I also didn't have anybody on my shoulder going, hey, man, you know, do this, do that. You should. Nobody taught me that. I just told you my education story. I didn't have any damn education. But I got a lot of it in that first 10 years of business.
Wow. So let's jump ahead then to Petra. That's how you and I originally met. And in the book, Tailspin to Tailwind, there's a whole chapter around scaling up and Rockefeller habits and your coaching. Without that, Souls for Souls would be gone. Like, it's that fundamental to where we are now. So can you talk about how you made the jump from selling hardware and chasing stuff every 18, 24 months to this more, I mean, there's a lot of right now, but it's a long-term process that you're guiding people through about how to change how they plan and think. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, I met Vern, who's the author of those books, Vern Harnish, in 2004. I still have the original copy that I had him sign at the day and all my notes that were in the workshop that I went to. And myself and my director of sales from NationLink went to this workshop somewhere in Nashville, and we sat through his whole thing. And I thought to myself, this feels like a better way to do this. Like finally somebody showed up to tell me how to actually be in business, not have a job, but actually have a business. So I just started following everything. And every now and then, I actually would call Vern, every now and then.
Wow.
And I would call him and say, hey, Vern, this is going on. What do you think? And he'd give me a little bit of advice, and I'd just keep moving. So 2004, you just got into EO, you said. So there's a program called EMP, Entrepreneurs Masters Program at MIT. I'm going to encourage you to go to that. 2005, I signed up for that program. Vern started it. I graduated that program in 2008. So it accelerated my understanding of everything inside of that class.
Yeah.
2011, I sold that business. But in that time period, I learned with systems and processes and the methodologies and thinking, all the stuff, all the things that I would learn, I would come back and actually implement and do myself, which most people go learn and they just keep doing the same whatever they're doing.
Right.
So when I would learn it, I would bring it back and we would actually do it. When I sold that in 2011, it was a business. It wasn't my job. I was basically irrelevant in that company. And everything and everybody else were the relevant parts of it, which allowed me to actually exit.
Which makes it worth something when you sell it,
for
right?
Sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
So you saw the benefit. How did you translate that into building a company around helping others see the benefit? That's just such a different business. 2011,
I got out of the business. It was in January. I took a little time off, tried to figure out what I wanted to do. I made myself a promise I wouldn't make any big decisions for 12 months. And there was all these like offers coming in, like come do this, come do this. So I just said no to everything. And then January 12 kind of rolled around. It's time for me to make that decision. And I thought, I'm pretty good at the stuff that I did back at NationLink and that company. I was pretty good at it. I understand that methodology. I think what I can do is just go help some other people do that.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to do it just me. Most people who do that work It's a single shingle, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I didn't want that. I knew, and I still know today because I learned this very early on, if I have to trade my time for the money, I will give it all of my time.
Yeah.
So I have to build something that produces revenue and margin that happens without me being there. So I knew, and the first plan I wrote by myself talked about the progression of Petra being an actual practice, that it was not just me, that it was other people, and all of our numbers and metrics reflected us getting to more people. So I spent the first 2 years doing the work and then figuring out, how do I create a system that allows other people to actually do the work?
Yeah.
Now, I learned it myself by doing it myself, so it was inherent to me, but I had to get it down on paper and processes and SOPs and everything else, such that I could get other people to actually go do it.
Yeah.
So that was the first couple of years. I think the first year I didn't even have another person around. It was just me. Wow. And then like year 2, I had an intern and maybe one person at the end of the year. By year 3, we had 3 to 5 people, and then it just took off from there.
So one of the ideas of this book of Tailspin to Tailwind is it happens to everybody, right? You've talked about a couple of ways it happened to you at NationLink. What did that look like at Petra? It maybe didn't happen, but it's sort of interesting to me to think, all right, here is somebody who lived it, building a company around it, and probably still had some setbacks, we shouldn't have gone that way, we should have done this. Can you talk about a few of those decisions that did set you back and how you got, to where you are now?
The first thing that comes to mind when you ask me that questions are things that not decisions that we made, but things that happened that we had to, and you and I both have lived through some of these type of things. So we had a very dear coach, fantastic friend, largest book of business inside of the organization. In my opinion, the best coach that we've ever had, that Petra's ever had. Not to mention, the one that was most aligned with my philosophy. Yeah. He passed away. He was in an accident and didn't make it past the accident. And the recovery from that is pretty dramatic. I mean, you've done it yourself, not just the relationship side, but just from the business side. So as the leader of the organization, you have to hold all that stuff together. Yeah. You got to communicate with everybody. You got to figure out how you're going to manage the customer base. And there's a lot that goes into that. I think NationLink, because of the speed at which we had to make decisions and move all the time, made disruption something that's like, okay, do this. Like, we'll figure it out, and we always do, or always did. The other big thing that comes to mind was our COVID time period. Yeah. Our business at Petra is take a team of people from a company, 5 to 50, put them in a room somewhere, in a hotel, conference room or whatever, and then fly to a city and meet them. Yeah. Right, and you're going to be there for a day or 2 days. And
none of that works in COVID.
No, I mean, March 13th, I remember it clearly, March 13th, 2020, me and Marshall, who I mentioned, and Mandy and Taylor, I think that we were in a room all day. Like, okay, Monday, we had 140-something flights pre-booked. Wow. I mean, we were doing this like 200 times a quarter somewhere with flights. So we had all these flights booked, all these hotels booked, all that's paid for. And it stops, right? So, and then how are we going to service all these people? What we did, and this was it was an unpopular decision that became very popular. The phone started ringing pretty quickly. Yeah.
People need you more than ever.
Well, they do, but they also don't want to pay for it. They didn't know if they'd be able to pay for it. So they would call and they would say, hey, we're looking at what's going on in the world, and we're going to cut back our expenses, and we're going to
That was the phone call.
That phone call was 40% of our customer base at the time made that phone call. So we're standing there, we're losing. But what we had was no travel. Nobody had to go get an airplane. You just got 25% of your life back. Yeah. So if you're not going to be traveling, let's service these people. We got all the content. We just got to figure out how to get it online, right? We just got to figure out how to do Zoom meetings better, right? All that kind of thing. So we scholarshiped every single company that wanted to not pay their bill. We did the work. In fact, we did a hell of a lot more work. We didn't just see them once a quarter. Many times we were seeing them once a week. Wow. So our team got in there and got to work because they had tons of time. And they service these people to keep them on track. And then we created and this was not a strategic thing. It was just something that we needed to communicate to a lot of people. We created an online learning, meaning going to Zoom and inviting people to come learn about something. And we were bringing 3 MD doctors to talk about COVID.
Oh,
not
right.
business stuff. We want a financial advisor to talk about the markets.
Yeah.
What are the things that people actually care about right now? And we were just educating them in a live format with these experts and these ideas. Those 2 things made Petra the next following years exponential growth. Probably 80% of the companies that said can't continue to pay you in a scholarship ended up coming back within 2 years. Some in 6 months, some in 2 years.
So, Andy, I know that your focus and live by values, and it's a huge part of the conversation you have with everybody. How did your values at Petra lead you to do the right thing? It's a good business decision. You just said that 80% of them came back, even though you had to make a tough business decision. It wasn't, knowing you, a transactional thing. Like, if we do this, they'll come back.
Yeah, you didn't even know that part.
You didn't even know that part.
Yeah.
So how did you guys get to that part of the decision of saying, you said it wasn't popular?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, everybody's looking like, oh, I'm not getting paid for this. No, you're not.
Right.
Neither am I, by the way. I mean, none of us are.
Right.
I don't, and I've been in tons of companies and seen tons of stuff. I've been with people who think differently than me, which is totally cool. I don't run my companies by a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's important.
Sure.
But to me, it's like an outcome. I have always been, just give it away. Just give it, whatever you got, give it to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
The more that I give, this is like my own personal experience, the more that I give, I get back tenfold.
Yeah.
So if I as simple as like tipping extremely well, somehow money comes back into my pocket. Mailing tons of notes of appreciation to people, somehow I get tons back.
Yeah.
I think that's a universal law that just works if somebody does it in the appropriate way. So when somebody calls you and says, I don't know if I'll be able to pay you, we're struggling, and you've been working with them for 2 years and you know them personally, what are you good? You have to help them, especially if you have the resource of time and expertise. It costs you nothing to jump on Zoom. You're sitting around your house anyway. Get on there.
How did that change the structure of Petra? I mean, you still go out, you still do meetings and that sort of stuff, but did it change? Are you hiring people from more places? Did it rewire you a little bit too?
We attempted to do a lot more virtual session sales. So that became like a thing that we sold for a little while. And people bought it for a while. They wanted to subscribe to that. We do some virtual plannings still for very remote teams. But most of it's all in person again.
Yeah.
So most of it is.
What about for your team? You have companies everywhere. Do you have coaches everywhere? Like, what does that look like internally?
Yeah, no, don't forget, I sold Petra over a year ago.
Ah.
So when you're asking me these questions, I'm like, let me see, where are they? California, Arizona, Utah, Connecticut, Virginia. Like they're
everywhere.
Yeah, they're pretty spread out. Yeah.
All right. So you sold Petra a year ago, which I had sort of heard in the ether. I wasn't sure that was a real thing.
It was like a rumor somewhere.
It was a rumor.
Yeah. There's lots of rumors.
So that's another big 15 years in almost, right?
Yeah, 12 and a half, 13
years in. So what led to that? And I know you and I were talking about Boundless, but sort of what's the next evolution of that for you?
So I was living in Colorado at the time. You know this, I've been out in Colorado. So I was out there for like two and a half years. And the business had gotten a little bit stagnant. Like the growth engine wasn't where the growth engine had been in the past. It was fine. It was working well. I'm not a person when something gets to be operationally excellence or, if it's working really well, I'm not very happy. If we need to go do something, I'm all in, right? And I knew that in order for that to actually change, that I was going to personally have to get a lot more involved, which may have meant moving back, or it may have meant additional meetings, or it may have been like, there's a lot of things that it actually meant. And I just wasn't willing to do that.
Yeah.
At this stage and so forth. I also figured out over time, Buddy, that I'm about a 10-year guy.
Yeah.
When I do something for about 10 years, it gets kind of boring.
Yeah.
Even planning days. Like I can go do a planning day with a company. I mean, you give me a blank piece of paper and a pen, that's all I need, man.
Right.
I've done 1,500 days like that. So, but it's very routine. There's very little times that something unique ever pops up.
Right.
Like I've dealt with it before. I've seen it before. You say the same words. The other guy said the same. Like it's all the same. It's why I like this boundless stuff better, the people side, because these are like when you get into a individual's personal world, there's all kinds of stuff in there, man. It's interesting as like everything is different, and there's something always new, and there's emotion and like really cool things that can happen.
So talk a little bit about Boundless. This is like me learning with you here. I only know a tiny little bit about it. I know you've been talking about it for a while, but I don't know.
Well, Boundless content has been around for a very, very long time. It started out inside of Petra as a thing called No Try Life.
Yes.
So
Okay.
if you remember, like we took basically the systematic approach to scaling and growing a company, and we created tools that were focused on growing the individual. And the premise of that was inside of your business, if the people don't grow, if they don't get better, not just to their job, but at life, then at some point in business, you're going to hit a ceiling. You're not going to be able to get past this particular ceiling because your people cannot keep up with the growth. The demand is too high for the capacity that they have. They have to get better. So we wanted to provide those tools for people to get better, but keep in mind it was living inside of Petra.
Yeah.
So when Petra comes in and you work with them, we would talk about the personal side maybe for like 2%.
Yeah.
Like it was never.
There's so much to do. I'll put in quotes. There's so much to do on the work side that you don't.
Yeah, you don't get there. You either don't have time for it or you don't have the focus, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I mean, but it never happened. So a few years ago, I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago, I changed it from No Try Life to Boundless, and I personally started focusing on it. I started speaking on it. I started doing workshops on it. I started doing, forum retreats on it. I started going out into the world and working with people and creating the content, the actual hard deliverable journal, the guides that we fill out in the work, like the content. Same thing I did at Petra the first few years.
Yeah.
I had to go create the stuff, right? I've created the stuff now. So when I sold Petra, I pulled out of Petra all the intellectual property for Boundless
Okay.
and the books. So that all came with me in the transaction, and that allows me to now go focus on the growth of this work that I'm doing with individuals and teams and families, even kids.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
That is a lot of complex dynamics going on if you're in a family with kids, right? That's
one of the coolest things is to see the whole family together doing it. So in its simplest form, it is, what do you want your life to look like in a very vivid manner? We put it into words. We go out 10 years, and we look at different areas of our life, and we design it and write it down. And then we come back to 1 year, and we ask, what do we got to get done in 1 year to get to 10? And then we look at 1 year, and we come back and say, what do I got to do in the next 30 days to get to 1 to get to 10? Same thing we do in business, right? It's no different whatsoever. But Buddy has a plan, and I have a plan, and the two girls have a plan, and now we all come together and we have our plan.
Yeah.
And that's the coolest part, is watching families come together, they have some shared goals, they have some separated goals, but they all are working on that on a 30-day basis. So it's just like your leadership team working around a one-page plan, working around a VTO or whatever they might call it. Exactly the same, except you're applying it to the family unit.
That's super interesting.
And it works great.
And right now, is it just you?
Right now, it's just me.
Yeah. Do you think the arc is the same?
Which is great and difficult.
Right. So do you think the arc is the same, and in a few years you've got a few people, or are you at a different phase for what you want?
I won't build this one with a large number of W-2 employees.
Yeah.
From a content perspective, I'll license it for coaches. I just had a conversation in the hallway with a guy who wants to be a coach.
Right.
But I'll just license the content.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not gonna, and the content is much simpler. Like it's not as complex as a lot of the business stuff that we have. So,
Sure.
It's easier to just license it and then teach them how to do these workshops, and then they can just go do the workshops.
Yeah.
One of our big focuses is actually the farm. So we have this property in West Tennessee, the Boundless Farm, 111 acres, 10 acres of lakes, multiple facilities. People come out there, and creating a retreat place for people to come and do this kind of work.
Yeah.
We have family events coming up in May and family events coming up in September, and we've hosted groups out there all year already.
So Andy, look, And maybe you've already told this story by talking about your business experience, but sort of a crazy beginning out of high school and how that shook out. Fast growth, a very unusual break in there from 99, 2000. Built Petra, and now this. What are you personally after now? So when you think about your 10 years, I'm sure you've got this written down somewhere, but the wisdom and experience that you have, you're sharing in a different way. How does that tie with what you personally want to do?
Yeah, it's one word: significance. That's it. It's as clear to me as anything in my life is clear. I have a desire to be significant in this world, and this is a way for me to be extremely, extremely significant.
You boiled that down.
It's and it's not new. I've been doing. These things have been a part of my life for a very long time.
So, anyone ask you a question? I don't know how old you are. Doesn't matter. I'm just one of the ways that we wrap up these conversations is a lot of times, and you probably answered this before. What do you wish you knew 20 years ago? What would you tell your 20-year ago self now? I want to ask it the other way. When you're 20 years from now, what do you want to remember about where you are? So not what do you want to do in 20 years, but when you're looking back and saying in 2025, man, that was great or hard or whatever. Yeah. What's the thing?
We have Kilimanjaro in common, right?
Yeah.
So when you tell the story of Kilimanjaro, probably just like I tell the story of Kilimanjaro, we never talk about the summit. Mm-mm. We never talk about the achievement of getting to the top. We talk about all the crap that we went through to get to the achievement. The achievement part of it is not what's important in life. So if I'm talking to my 20 years, the pursuit of the achievement is what's important. It's truly what we actually value and what gives us pride in ourselves, which is significance.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's a reminder, and I'm very lucky that I get to go into these rooms because I just told them the exact same story. Because when I say it to them, I say it to me. Mm-hmm. Like I get to say these words, publicly all the time, so I get to hear them again and remind myself. The pursuit, and I'm in the pursuit right now of this boundless thing. I'm spending tons of cash, and it's in the red, and there's a lot of oddness to it for me, but I need to appreciate that more.
Yeah.
I need to appreciate the times that things are difficult and cold and wet and rocky and it smells bad and whatever else goes along with it, because that's what I truly care about. Getting there is just an outcome.
Yeah. Perfect. I think that's a great place to leave it, Andy. Thanks so much for sharing that.
You bet.
I learned a lot today, so I really appreciate that. As long as we've known each other, this is a great conversation to have, and appreciate all that you shared and wish you the best with Boundless.
All right, man.
Thanks.
We'll have you out at the farm.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Repurpose Podcast with Buddy Teaster. You can learn more about what we do at s4s.org. And if you like this content, please share, rate, and review our episodes wherever you get your favorite podcasts.